A few days ago, Nobel laureate Paul Krugman, one of the more embarrassing laureates, was being roasted for a tweet he put out saying, quote, "The war on inflation is over. We won at very little cost." Before getting into the cost that was not paid by Paul Krugman, it's worth taking a moment to appreciate the sheer mendacity of Paul's little chart crime here, one that my colleague E.J. Antoni noted would make Goebbels blush at its dishonesty. So here it is in all its glory. First, note Paul's very pleasing slope on the curve. Bit of a scare in the beginning, then a gradual decline that ends spot on the Fed's target 2% inflation rate. Jerome Powell is just that good. Sadly, however, we then turn to the X and Y axes. Up top is what's actually being counted here. Turns out this is not inflation, this is Krugman's imaginary friend, taking the consumer price index and stripping out food, energy, housing, rent, and used cars. I literally had to check if it was a joke, but no, this is the state of Nobel economics in 2023. The fun does not end there because we still have the y-axis over there on the left side. Turns out this is not even annual change. No, this is 6-month change at annual rate, which you get by taking the last 6 numbers and squaring it. Why would you do that, you ask? Because that's the only way to get the slope. Actually, imagine Paul burning the midnight solar panels, sloping out 3 months to the 4th power, 4 months cubed, 5.5 months, a partridge in a pear tree. I know it is very embarrassing when your imaginary friend still needs a 6-month annualized chart. So what happens if you use an honest chart? Here's the numbers direct from the Federal Reserve for the last 12 months. Notice we haven't won diddly. In fact, it's getting worse, with the most recent 2 months averaging a 6% pace of inflation. Next, have a gander at core inflation, which is the Fed's favorite indicator for underlying inflation. It strips out food and energy, which always struck me as suspicious, since those are the 2 categories that make voters angriest. Still, even if we take the Fed at its word, notice the distinctly unpleasing slope. Core had a one-night stand below 2% back in June, July, and now it is back to rising. Now, Paul has been in the game a long time. He knows darn well that the Fed publishes all these statistics every single month. He knows he had to sit alone in a basement and crank out homebrew CPI with goal-seek months, and he knows why he did it, because for the same reason he does it all. He is a paid shill who owes it all, including even the Nobel Prize, to lifting the correct boots in the correct order. So what is next? Brought to you by Unchained. What's next is the worse things get, the more they will lie. Biden, Powell, Yellen, they all have a literal army of prestigious Ph.D. economists who stand the wall ready to suppress any opinion, sugarcoat any statistic, gaslight any voter they come across. It's an industrial-scale disinformation campaign, all generously funded by your tax dollars to be weaponized against you. It will not stop until it is defunded, starting with the very universities that employ people like Paul Krugman. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.